Kvaratskhelia steadying himself! A star in the making. And there's the only goal! Sabiri with it! After 11 years, once again, Milan are the champions of Italy.
Ciao ragazzi, and welcome to the review della Madonnina of Serie A Sit Down, World Football Index's podcast for your Calcio to go for the last time this season. I'm Frank Crivello. A very confused Richard Carmen is with us, thinking that this is a Ligue 1 podcast for some reason. Ciao anyway, Richard.
I was going to say something French, but I can't stop laughing. How are you, Frank? Yes, with all that stuff that happened with Maldini, I decided to support PSG. No, I'm just kidding. Relax. This is the Ibrahimovic jersey honoring his retirement. So this is the Ibrahimovic jersey. I don't care about PSG. So.
Okay. So that's what it was. Okay. Well, at least you got the right sport. So
yeah.
I'll give you credit for that. So, how are you?
I'm good. Season's done. Long season. I'm exhausted from the season. I know you are as well. So glad to do this season finale, give out some awards, talk out some crazy news that happened in the last day or so. And we still got 3 or 4 big games remaining on the schedule. Obviously, Champions League with Inter. You got Fiorentina tomorrow in the Conference League. We have Spezia versus Verona for the final playoff spot or relegation spot. And then Serie B, Bari versus Cagliari to get promoted. So, man, it's a lot of Calcio left.
Not to mention the Italy under-20s in the World Cup semifinals. I believe they take on Israel next. Win that, and they'll be in the final against the winner of Uruguay and South Korea. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very exciting to see them progressing in the tournament. Some very, very good young players. Nice to see one of our touts from earlier in the season, Tommaso Baldanzi, having quite a nice tournament.
Absolutely.
There at the U20 level. So, certainly doesn't coincide with Empoli struggling without him over the last couple games of the season, but they were in a position where they could afford to struggle and let their young starlet go to the Azzorini, if you will. So. And then, yes, Casadei is also ripping it up, too. You are absolutely right, Apex, a combination of those guys. We're already Edward, the Cardinale news, bad for the whole Serie A. Oh, man, we're gonna talk about that.
A little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that. But I want to give the man his due, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I think it's appropriate to open with an icon of Milan, an icon of football, an icon of Italian football played and won titles with Juventus, Inter, and Milan. It's great way to put it is, hey, time beats us. Time beats us all. It's undefeated.
Even God.
Yep. Even God was crying. It was raining. It was raining in Milan that morning. So, I don't think there will be another like Ibrahimovic. The blend of power, finishing, technique on the pitch, charisma and confidence, and maybe even bluster, off it. And when speaking to the media and speaking to people, and in the character that he is, I just in an era of CR7 and Messi, I liked Ibra, because I liked what I was getting. I liked what I was getting for the occasional sideshow too. So, a legend moves on from the game, and your thoughts and your memories of him.
Yeah, Ibra is. You were talking about Ibra is this blend of all these different specialities and things that just make him so unique, right? And you talked about how the character, the charisma he has, especially in front of a camera. The closest person we have seen to him is probably Erling Haaland in terms of the vocal, how he speaks from the camera. He likes to be snarky and makes his comments, and he reveres himself, which Zlatan does. But Zlatan has so many disciplines. He's so technical on the ball. Such a fantastic. He's arguably not arguably. He is the third best player of our generation behind Messi and Ronaldo. And the reason he's behind those two is because those two had scored a shit ton of goals, and they won everything, right? And Zlatan nearly won everything, but such a fantastic player just for his size, the technical ability. He does it all, and then the fantastic goal over the head from like 40 yards out, bicycle over. What's his name from England? It's just he did everything you could imagine: assists, goals, taunting. He talked the talk, but he also walked it as well, right? One of my favorite quotes from him was actually when he was at MLS, and they're trying to compare him to Carlos Vela, and he goes, "He's in his prime now, right? Yeah. Where was I? I was ruling Europe. Exactly. Don't compare us." So Zlatan is just a one of a kind. Glad to see the Curva Sud send him off with a God bye, right? He always referred to himself as God or the Lion. Yeah, he's gonna be missed. He's a player who was at the top of his game until 40, 41. And then Father Time caught up to him, injuries caught up to him, and there's nothing you can do at that point. So he kept himself in great shape. People talk about how Ronaldo keeps himself in great shape, as does Zlatan. He's a black belt in I think judo and taekwondo and whatever. So yeah, man, he's such a special player. Did it for many years, coming up through the ranks from in Sweden and then Ajax and then so on and so forth through Serie A and La Liga, Ligue 1 as well. So that's why we got the jersey here right now. So what a player. I mean, he was a legend for all top three teams in Serie A. When you talk about the big three with Juventus, Inter, and Milan, he was the star for all three of them. So yeah, man, he's going to be missed. Not going to be another guy like him, but Milan can rest their laurels that he was a big part in the locker room about why they won the Scudetto and became back to prominence because his leadership in the locker room, no doubt about it. Of course, on the pitch stuff, but also off the pitch. So he's going to be missed.
I'll tell you, the perfect place to try to figure out where to fit him. I would love to see him. How good would it be in the Paramount Plus Champions League studio with Micah Richards and Jamie Carragher and Thierry Henry?
Yeah. Oh my God. They were
imagine what he would add, and just maybe the back and forth between him and Micah. I think that would just be crazy.
Him and Thierry Henry would get up because they play with each other for a little bit, and they would joke off each other.
Yeah.
But Micah Richards probably wouldn't stop laughing, and Jamie Carragher probably get pissed off at Zlatan at some points. But Zlatan is great behind the mic. He always has been, and he'll continue to be. So he'll be.
Yeah, I think that and as far as the charisma and as far as the personality, you only need to look at what ended up becoming his retirement ceremony at the San Siro and what he said to the Verona fans. So, keep. What do you say? And they said it in Italian, but he said, keep booing. This is the best moment of your year seeing me.
Yeah, it's the highlight of your year, yeah.
I think my favorite, and I can't remember where he was playing. I want to say it was MLS, or he might have been when he was Manchester United, and the reporter had asked him what he had gotten for his wife for Christmas. He said, I got her nothing. She already has Zlatan.
That's right. Yeah, I think it was at United at that point, but yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot he played for United too, man. He's played so many teams, so.
Yep, he was like 9 different teams, I believe, over the course of over 23 years. So
Apex might like this, but United kind of ruined his streak of winning consecutive league titles everywhere he went. So
yep, that's for sure. He got a Europa League with Manchester United, so he did win a European trophy on some occasion, but he never got the Champions League, never got the World Cup. But I don't think he's going to be measured by that. So
he shouldn't.
He's
one of the greats of the game that we've all seen. So we should. He's a very polarizing player, right? He's absolutely polarizing, but you got to push that aside. If you just look on pure skill and what he brought to the game, he was one of the best.
Yep. And then he's earned his place there. And then we probably also, match week 38 probably marked the last time we see Fabio Quagliarella, at a Serie A level, at the age of 40. We'll see. I mean, I don't think he's really formally said anything, I don't think. But he's probably at a point where he's hung it up. And, I think that when we obviously talked about the loud, the boisterous one, now the guy who was, a career of really quiet brilliance is probably the best way to describe it. If that can even be a term. He had extremely significant moments. He scored some of the craziest goals you're ever going to see. The goal he scored against Napoli a few years back.
Oh my
that
God.
was like what, 4 match weeks into the season, and we said slam dunk, hands down, goal of the season. There's not a single goal that's going to come after.
Koulibaly draped all over him too.
Yeah. So, but that's just the tip of the iceberg with the kind of quality with which he scored. For all the clubs that he played for. The only, you could say he's Antonio Di Natale, but Di Natale did it all with one team. Quagliarella obviously was on a tour of teams, but wherever he went, he was successful and he scored. And that kind of brilliance and that kind of that kind of quality, we're going to see it with players down the road. But Quagliarella was one of a kind.
He's a big game player too, and I know he's somewhere celebrating that Napoli Scudetto as well, right? He wanted so badly to win when he was with them, but he's what a player he is. He's a big game player, scored unbelievable goals. You only wish he maybe would have done a little bit more when he was at Juventus, but I mean, he's still top-notch striker, always someone to put fear into you. You have to know where he is at all times. And even like the Koulibaly goal, when you're man marking him, he pulls something out of a rabbit out of a hat, and that unbelievable goal. They score back heel flick in the air, past the keeper with like power too. He's just such a special player. Not only did he score goals, he could set up his teammates. He did so much with that is so undervalued. And I think, you mentioned Di Natale, and I think that's a fair comparison because they both were similar players in the minus the one team thing with Di Natale. They both were very similar. They had big goals, carried their teams on their backs, both special players. And if this is Quagliarella's swan song, and it seemed like if you watch the game, how he's like, waving to the fans, certainly probably done with Sampdoria, but he's had a magical career, and he's gonna hopefully the one downside, I guess I would say, his career is all the paparazzi, the people that pester him off the pitch, and hopefully that subsides now that he's gonna be hopefully retired. But he's another player you're gonna be missed. Is he one of the greats of all time in the world, like you say, Zlatan? No, but he's certainly gonna be remembered in Italian football, no doubt about it.
Definitely, most definitely. So guys that are choosing to move on, and now we move on to a story of someone being forced out. This was the hot topic over the last 24 hours among Milan fans, among fans of Calcio in general. I mean, Juve fans, Inter fans, Napoli fans, all the like. You're seeing them on Twitter chiming in on this. But Redbird Group, Gerry Cardinale decides to move on from Paolo Maldini and Ricky Massara. Apparently Moncada steps in and takes over, in terms of the kind of the technical director role. I don't know what his specific role is titled, but I think that he's going to just be assuming a lot of these duties. We haven't heard a whole lot more left, but an incredible uproar here, Richard, over the last 24 hours. Among Milan fans, among fans of football in general, among fans of Calcio, among fans of casual fans of saying, hey, this is quite a statement to come in here in your first year as an owner and just put a legend out on the street. What do you make of it?
I'm guessing he's thinking ignorance is bliss. Maybe he said himself, he only knew about Milan over the last couple of years, only heard about him the last couple of years, which is ludicrous to me. And then I would guess if that's the case, he probably only heard of Maldini when he tried to buy the club, and so maybe he didn't know how big of a legend he is. The Curva will make him aware very quickly of how big he is, and the rest of the fan base. I try to put my thoughts together, try to make this sound as coherent as possible, and I know I'm going to fail, and I don't care. And you and I were talking with our good friend Mo about it, on a chat, and my anger with this is a 12 out of 1 out of 10. It's a 12. It's ludicrous what he did to a club legend. Now we'll take what he's done and all that stuff aside. You come in to a club where already the fan base is maybe 50% behind you. I'm talking about Gerry Cardinale. And then you do this shit. You got 0% of the fan base behind you. Maybe 5% for the really, really crazy, not thinking clearly folks, right? But he's got a whole mountain to climb now, and he has to have. Maldini did some good things. Was he perfect? No, but what he did, the players he signed, some of the players he signed are angry now at this. But what he's done in his short time as a technical director, or whatever position I'd call him, was good stuff. It was good stuff. Can it be improved? Sure, but Cardinale, he's going to have to get a Scudetto and or a Champions League here in short succession, or this is potentially be the whole fan base is going to go against him and want to get him out quickly if they're not going to do it already. But with that, my anger aside, maybe this is the American in me, Frank.
That was so weak.
I think I'm not totally surprised by this because I have been following Redbird, and what they did at Toulouse was something similar. Now, they didn't get rid of club legend, but they got rid of their technical director, and he brought in his own guy. And they have this mentality at Redbird. They want to play. They have a certain vision, and it's been coming to fruition at Toulouse slowly but surely through smart spending. And now Toulouse is now a Europa League team. And so you imagine the same thing's going to be happening. I likened it to the Red Bull franchise, where you buy excellent young players, do well with them, right? And then sell them for a lot of money, and then just keep that cycle going. It funds your team and go over. So I'm going to be a wait and see on Redbird, but you're starting me at 0%. I'm at the bottom. You had me at 50% because I was like, let's see what you got. Whatever. We got Maldini, Massa, we're good. But now that they're out, you got me at 0. And you got to earn, and this is not just me, this is the fan base. You got to earn our respect just to get us back there. And it has to be immediate success, because that's what Paolo Maldini was screaming this whole time, is like, hey, we need some money. He said this on CBS Sports. Maybe it's part of why he got fired. It's like, hey, we need some more money to compete with the big teams of the world. Now, Milan are not set up financially to compete with the Man Cities and the PSGs of the world, but you got to have a vision, and you got to spend a little bit more dough. You can't just have all the youngsters. So we'll see. I'm going to be waiting to see on Redbird, but I am absolutely furious. It's absolutely not a way to treat a legend. It could have been much better. And then to top it all off, Milan with their shitty swan song to Paolo Maldini on their website. It was 4 sentences or something? Oh,
it was tasteless.
Tasteless. And Matteo Bonetti put it perfectly on when the way he summed it up. And it's acting like you're treating an intern. It's not how you treat a club legend, one of the greats of the game, not just Calcio, but the entire game. So again, I'm furious, but I'm gonna wait and see with Gerry Cardinale and Redbird. They're gonna have to come up with something big over the next 2 years, results wise, to get the fan base back, because I think they're on thin ice at the moment, and I will be surprised if they don't protest.
Okay, so here's where I'm gonna come in on this. And Eduardo kind of highlighted it already. How can you compare Toulouse with Milan? When they bought Toulouse, where was Toulouse?
Second division.
Yes. Okay. When you bought Milan, where's Milan? Coming off of winning Scudetto and qualifying for the Champions League for the second straight year. So they bought Milan in a time that Milan was in the middle of a project that was working.
That was in a winning season.
Yes. And I'll even argue that even with this season, as bad as Milan fans will perceive it to be, it was still working. It was still working. This is okay. What Maldini set this club on course for, and what this group set this club on course for, winning the Scudetto and getting a Champions League semifinal, were just ahead of schedule moments toward a bigger picture. And now you're going to put the progress of this project to a screeching halt, backtrack it to a degree in hopes that you can get it to keep going further forward.
And hope you don't lose Leao, Magnon, and Teo Hernandez, who have been the most vocal.
That's the optics of this. Okay? That's the optics of this. The problem is that Magnon, Teo, and Leao are all under contracts that they're not going to be able to get out of. I don't think they're going to be able to walk out, just walk out. It's not going to be that simple. I think even I think I saw on Twitter that Nima alluded to it a little bit because somebody was asking if Leao could challenge his contract in the courts or something like that, and said it would be impossible.
No. It has to be bought.
Yep. So, now Bob Lex, a boiled potato is actually quite good, especially if you can put some sour cream and bacon and melted cheese on it.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, and that's when I'll have a boiled potato. But yeah, but boiled potato by itself, you can't do it. So that's the thing. And then Maldini said, now we need bigger investments. And I think he positioned the club to be prepared for this. And this was in Maldini's words, this bigger investments was the next phase of the project.
Correct.
And now Cardinale has come in and killed this. Yep. All right. And wants to put in his own plan. That's like Toulouse with a fan base that is not going to be as patient.
No.
Okay. You just came off of winning a Scudetto. You're going back to the Champions League. There's not going to be the patience here that there was at Toulouse. So, but Nima was replying to a Chelsea fan. He probably was. I don't know exactly who he was talking to. Yeah. I just happened to catch it. So that's the problem that I have. That's the problem that I have with it. Okay. It's not so much, sacking a legend, even though the way that it happened and the way that Milan communicated it was all pretty tasteless.
Yes.
And was very disappointing. We can all agree to that. We're fans of a club with a large history. And we revere the players who achieved legendary status to get Milan to where it is. Paolo Maldini, chief among them. When you play, the first name that comes to mind when you think of Milan, most people are going to say Maldini. Okay? You might have some real old school guys say Rivera. You might have some guys say Shevchenko or Kaká or even Ibrahimovic now. But Maldini is the name that you associate with Milan more than anything. We'll take Maldini if Giuntoli ends up Maldini. There's no way, 100% no way. And
I don't even know if he takes another job.
Yeah, he won't, and he shouldn't. I mean, he's not spiteful to where he's just going to go to a rival club.
Like I don't think Nedved would leave. What if he left Juventus? He would go somewhere else. I don't think Zanetti would do the same thing. They're just club legends that just stay with their one club.
Right.
Yeah.
So that aside, and I said this on Twitter, and this is where somebody said, well, that's the typical American response, a guy from Sweden. You can't sit here and you can't be angry at Maldini. We're in a spot where we really can't be, we can be angry about Maldini and what happened to him, but we also have to take a wait and see approach on what Cardinale is actually going to do. We're actually forced into this. We've got no other choice.
Yeah.
And we're in a situation where, okay, you sacked Maldini. You sacked a legend of our club. I hope you screw this up. That's like getting on a plane and, kicking out the best flight attendant. And then the pilot kicks out the best flight attendant, and then now you're just cheering for the pilot to crash the plane with you, that you're riding in.
Yeah.
It's basically what it's akin to. Okay. As much as we all hate this and as much as it sucks, we're going to have to get behind this club, and we're going to have to give them their chance and give it their process. We don't have to like it right now. We don't have to like the decisions and the direction.
And Redbird doesn't care.
And Redbird doesn't care whether we do or don't. Exactly. Yeah. They've obviously made it very, very clear. If they're willing to sack a legend, they're willing to do anything.
And look, and I'm not comparing Milan to Toulouse. I'm not. I'm just saying Redbird is your cutthroat company that treats everything the same. So Toulouse and Milan are the same to him. That's what I'm saying. And that's the way they want to see their vision play out. They don't care wherever they are. They're there. This is their team. They're going to run it how they want to run it. And they're going to be here for the money, for sure. Will they win? We'll see. They could surprise us and become a threat European-wise But this Mercato is going to tell you everything this summer. We'll know a good deal about Redbird after the summer.
Yeah. I don't think we can, in the extent you can be disappointed about the Maldini sacking, but at the same time, take the wait and see approach. All right.
Bob,
I mean, how many times have we seen this happen and things end up better than what we anticipated?
Other than Young Hong Lee, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Young Hong Lee, I think here's the problem with the whole Young Hong Lee era. We were so desperate for a winner. We were so desperate for a team that can compete at a high level that, oh, great, you got this guy, you got that guy, you got that guy. And then the whole thing completely capitulated, and that I think that was a time where Milan fans were just desperate. Do something. Somebody come in and do something. Here, to my point, what's that?
I said Gerry comes in and does something.
Yeah, Gerry comes in and does something. But he tears apart a project that was still in the ascendancy despite not winning the title this year, despite not getting to the Champions League final this year. Okay? That was making progress. Milan's finances, I think, are relatively healthy. I think that was part of it.
They should have at least 50 million euros to spend, allegedly, 50 to 75 million, allegedly, but we'll see.
Allegedly.
We'll see. Interisti somewhere laughing because, like, Eduardo are probably saying, like, hey, we have an owner who doesn't pay our players, but at least we still got a good team. Now, Uncle Gerry comes in, and this good for your legend. At least Zhang didn't fire Zanetti, right?
So, now, Calcio with Rhino Z. What's up? Let me spin this a little bit in a different direction. Let me take this in a different direction now. We've pretty much made it clear our feelings about this whole situation. But let's try to put on Gerry Cardinale's hat. Okay? And he looks at this and said, okay, great. You extended Leao. You brought in Maignan. You extended Teo. Okay, good job keeping the core players, extending their contracts, keeping Tomori. We can't forget Tomori.
Yeah, and the
manager. Okay, great job doing that. But for every one of those, Charles de Ketelare, Yacine Adli, Junior Messias, Florenzi, Serginho Dest, take out the name Maldini and let's just say that the technical director's name is Joe Public. Would we be as outraged?
Joe Publico. That's be Italian, right?
Yeah.
No, we would not. And I say it because he did some excellent work, Joe Publico. Right? But there was a lot of duds too. I guess Piontek was part of it too. Maybe not. I don't remember if Piontek was his or before him. But there's been a lot of duds. Now, we thought the same thing about Leao and Tonali and Benacer. So the jury's still out. Will Moncada and Cardinale have patience with the youngsters? We'll see. Certainly, Serginho Dest needs to go. But Adli and CDK, horrible seasons.
Divock Origi also.
Or Origi too, yeah. But we'll see what happens. I mean, there was some gems in there, but there was also some duds. And I think what Redbird and the Red Bulls of the world, they want more gems than not, right? Mm-hmm. They want like RB Leipzig, where they got freaking two basically starting 11s of talent on that team. That's what they want. That's what Redbird wants. And so if you base it on that, yeah, maybe take out the name. It was maybe the right move. Maybe, but
you ended up in a bidding war for a young Belgian player with that the only other competition you had for his signature was a team that ended up getting relegated from the Premier League this year. Yeah. And you spend 35 million on him for him to have 32 appearances and not score a goal. Yeah. It's a ridiculous return. Now it's another one where we're just going to look at this because we've said this already that we're gonna give De Ketelare more rope, but he better come good next year because he better justify this investment, or else this turns into one of the biggest flops of all time in terms of transfers that Milan have done. Yeah. I've seen people say 35 million spent on De Ketelaere when that money could have been invested in a contract for Paulo Dybala. True. You can't argue that. And look at the season Dybala had for Roma. So,
but how much is he making per season? We're also on a
much more than De Ketelaere.
Yeah, exactly. Milan were also on a tight budget, so their options were limited. But yes, that's a great point. I think any one of the free agents or anybody cheap you could have got with a little bit higher salary. So
right. So there is some of this. It's that you're sacking a brand name and you're sacking a legend, but then you look at a performance that where he did some very good moves, made some very savvy moves, was able to convince a player like Leao to stay and set up a contract where it would be very difficult for him to leave anytime in the next 5 years. But then for each one of those, you had a De Ketelaere, or for every Tomori extension, you had an Adli for that, and I think that's the thing that you have to get beneath the Maldini name and see what all went on when you look at the entire body of work. That's if I'm putting on the Cardinale hat. I still don't agree. Still don't agree with it because I think on the project on the whole was still going in the right direction, despite a lot of the missteps.
And the name brought in a lot of big players too.
That's the other thing.
I don't think the big three would have came here if it wasn't for Maldini. They all said it. We came because of Maldini and who he is.
Many people said that. I mean, the dressing room believed in him, and I think Christine Cupo said it. I think on the Morning Footy podcast. I think that's where I heard it, where she said the intangibles that Maldini brings, Moncada can't bring that. So, and I think that's where that's where the unrest is going on here, with the fans and with the supporters. But again, we're going to just have to wait and see, aren't we?
Absolutely. So we'll see. We'll give them the summer, end of the summer.
Yep. We'll see how it goes. I would say let's give this the first 10 games of the season, some Champions League games, and see where this thing is headed, what direction this is headed. I'm willing to give a little bit more of a leash here. So, but though I think that's all the major news we needed to cover to get us through at this point. I think there's one more thing that I think we can go without saying, and I think we all witnessed some of the unfortunate incidents that happened after the Europa League final involving Jose Mourinho looking for Anthony Taylor in the parking lot to call him a fucking disgrace, among other things. And then that turned into Roma fans harassing Anthony Taylor and his family on the way to trying to just get on their plane to go home. It goes without saying, Jose, he's different. All right. He's arrogant. He's all of this other stuff. And there's things that make me appreciate that he's in Serie A. But when you do something like that, you just become you're no better than hockey dad or little league dad. And you just enable to be as the face of the club. And let's face it, he's the face of the club right now at Roma. You just enabled your fans to behave in a despicable manner. And I will say this, while obviously I disapprove all of that, but Calcio fans, just do not paint all Roma fans with a broad brush, because there are a lot of good ones out there that
100%.
that would condone this behavior in a heartbeat, and definitely know better. Some of them have been on this podcast before, so. That's as much as I want to say about everything that happened after the Europa League final. Were they denied a clear penalty? Yeah, they were. But so was Sevilla. Hard to really reverse that decision, in my opinion, but they did through VAR. And I can't remember. I think, was it Ibanez? Yep. But we did say that, didn't we? Say that about Ibanez? We thought that he'd have some trouble trying to deal with Ocampos and some of the.
And we've
you
said
heard that here.
We've said it too, that Ibanez needs to go. In my opinion, he needs to be cut from that team, because he's cost him so many damn games since he's been there. And in big games too, he just comes up with red cards and silly plays and own goals and giving up penalties. he needs to be cut. But
Mhm.
that was standing. Yes, he should have been fouled against him. And yeah, Roma, they probably got a short end of the stick. I thought it was still a good game. Paulo Dybala proved in a big game he could score. It was a great play by him. And he really put Roma on his back. He is becoming the star of Roma, which is great to see. And we weren't sure how that would happen after leaving Juventus, but this team is good. But what we saw after the game was unfortunate, and you never want to see that at all. We heard similar things on the pitch after the Buffon and Real Madrid thing in the Champions League final several years ago. But this was to another level, right? This is Mourinho going after the referee, and then the fans going after him, and it's ludicrous. And it's, again, not all fans. It's not all Roma fans. It's just those idiots that were there. Same thing when you see all these other incidents and throughout the league. It's usually just idiots in the small group, not the whole fan base. Those fan bases in general are fantastic all the way around. So
yeah, agreed. So we'll, so that's the gist of that. The game probably went as we expected. It was a big rock fight.
yeah.
Mourinho, as he looks for blame, should probably also ask himself why his first three penalty takers were Cristante, Mancini, and Ibanez too. So, so it's what it is. So, rumor is Mourinho might get a 4-match ban by UEFA. He should. He should. I would support that. So, anyway. We're going to talk about Fiorentina, West Ham, and Manchester City Inter a little bit later in the podcast, but let's get to the review Della Madonnina, Richard. The 22-23 season is behind us. The storylines are just absolutely endless. I mean, I think this season delivered as well as any season before it that we've been involved doing this podcast.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ask you, this is going to be the challenging question we're going to have to answer. Okay. So many things happened. You had, and I'm not going to say them. I'll say them after I give my answer, but what's the one thing that's going to stand out to you about the 22-23 season?
I'm going to say outside of Napoli, I think parity.
Yeah.
We talked about, it's been building over the last few seasons, but we said going into this season that the seven sisters, or even the eight sisters, you want to call it now, they're all going to be good, really good. And what we saw is they cannibalize each other. That's how good they were. They dismantled the rest of the league and then cannibalized each other. That aided in the fact that Napoli pulled away from everybody. Napoli did their own thing. Napoli not only was successful and dominant against the eight sisters, they dominated the whole league. And the rest of the seven sisters, they just cannibalize each other, and the gap spread. Now we saw some teams starting to read Napoli and learn how to play them. The bigger teams, Inter, Milan come to the forefront, Lazio as well. But it's just the parity in the league is fantastic to see, and I say that in a good way because you want to see it challenge everyone. You don't want to see someone walk away with the title. Yeah, Napoli did it, but the rest of the league, it wasn't like the 4 to 6 best teams, it was the best, and then everybody else sucked. No, it was like the top 8 were good. The middle of the road teams were good. They all gave everybody trouble, like the Monzas of the world, right? The Bolognas of the world, the Udineses. They get people trouble all season long, and then the relegation teams giving the top teams trouble because they're all trying to fight for survival, especially at the end. And we saw all these surprises that we didn't see result wise. So parity wise is good. Yeah, some of the bottom teams were really bad, right? Cremonese in particular. And Sampdoria, but for the most part, the parity in the league was amazing to see, and it really brought out all the talent you get to see in display from top to bottom. It was out there, and it was wonderful to see.
I'm going to say Napoli's dominance this season will be the one thing that stands out to me. Yeah, I think you can't help but be impressed with what they did from start to finish in this league. I think I've said it so many times this season. No way you expect this. I expected to be at this point in the season seeing Napoli finish 4th after going just on a ferocious run to grab the 4th spot and be that trendy team that everyone's going to watch next season. Favorites for the Scudetto and, maybe putting it down. They did that all way ahead of time. Under Luciano Spalletti, who had a reputation for his teams just having being attractive in terms of the football that they play, being, scoring goals. But having just enough fragility to have it all fall apart, and that didn't happen this season. And then, I mean, I think Spalletti just riding off into the sunset. I've got my Scudetto. I'm going to go back and make more wine now. I think that's beautiful. Go out on top. Why not?
Yeah.
So, the immediate impact that Kvaratskhelia had, Osimhen finally being healthy enough to play almost an entire season and grab a Capo Canonieri, because we have been predicting him to be a Capo Canonieri every season, but then he gets hurt, so that he finally does it and he finally gets it done. Losing a lot of players, but being able to make smart replacements and invest smartly to build a team that sustained a dominant Serie A run, got to the Champions League quarterfinals, and who knows what would have happened if they didn't face a Milan that was at their stingiest defensively, in that particular moment of the season. If they could have gotten to this final against Manchester City, what a spectacle that would have been. Yeah. We can only imagine what would have happened at this point. So for me, and that's in a season where Juventus and the controversy, they lose 15 points, they get them back in appeal, then they lose 10. You've got 3 Serie A teams reaching European finals. You've got, Monza being one of the surprise packets of the season. You've got, Lecce returning to Serie A and this time being able to stay up. Sampdoria just being woefully poor and now going down to Serie B. I mean, there's a ton of storylines. Milan with the struggles they had throughout the entire season and the semifinal run they went on in the Champions League. Inter with their inconsistencies and people on the Inter side calling for Inzaghi to be sacked. And what does he do? He guides them to a Coppa Italia, and now he's got them in the Champions League final. In a group when they were back. I mean, who called that? Yeah. When they were in a group with Bayern Munich and Barcelona. Yeah, there's just so many storylines here from this season. I mean, it was beautiful to be able to cover and be able to bring it to all of you in the chat and to everybody listening to us. And but I will say that Napoli's dominant performance in Serie A this season, to me, stands head and shoulders above everything else that went on this season. So, be interested to see what the chat says about theirs. And Bob Lex is talking about Osimhen running at defense is an image. And, you'll be curious to see what you guys all think. So go ahead. If you're in the chat, just pick one thing out of this season that you think this season will be remembered by. And if it's something different than what we said, go have at it. So,
yes, sir.
So that aside, let's talk about the goal of the season. A lot of good goals, obviously. Serie A has got no shortage of it. How many goals were scored this year?
Many.
You give your goal of the season or give some thoughts, and I'm going to add up the goals and where we were at this year.
There are so many good goals this year. I mean, just the last weekend alone, you had Cope Miner scored a fantastic goal from midfield. Kvaratskhelia had a coast to coast run. It seemed like where he went through slalom through every player. Leao with the fancy footwork at the end of the week, as the last match week. You had Berardi early in the season. I remember when he had a fantastic volley. We thought it was going to stand the test of time, and it did. Posh had a great goal early in the year from distance. So many great goals this year. But for me, I think, and it's going to be a duplication of efforts from last year because it was almost an identical goal from last year, and that's Theo Hernandez, coast to coast run, in almost identical fashion, but probably better finish than he did last year, going coast to coast this year and scoring that wonderful goal top corner against the keeper. It was just a memorable run. I mean, there's so many good goals. I mean, you can't go wrong with any of the goals you saw this year. But for me, Theo Hernandez is the one most memorable for me. Maybe as a Milanista, it sticks in my head. But that's my goal this season. It just when we saw it happen, you're like, he's not gonna do it again, is he? And he's going through players like he's going to do it again. Sure enough, he scores. Like, mother God, he did it again.
I like that shout. I mean, there was enough quality goals from match week 38. You can just pick from that. I mean, go all the way to the beginning of the season. Domenico Berardi's volley. You've got Kvaratskelia's just ruthless run through the middle against Sassuolo. That sticks out in my mind. Teo Hernandez's goal, as you said. How many times did the Leo's goal? I believe was it again? It's against Lecce, where he grabbed it from, just entering the middle third of the pitch and saying, "Okay, boys, let's go on a run."
Yeah.
Osimhen's volley against Roma at the Derby della Sud at the Olimpico.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But for me, the goal of the season was clever, was cheeky, was well thought out, caught everybody off guard. My goal of the season is going to be Cristiano Viragi's midfield goal from half field, putting it down on the restart against Hellas Verona. That will be going down as my goal of the season. Still, I mean, it's a long way. I mean, 60 yards, and it takes some technique and getting on target. So I will go with that for goal of the season. Manager of the season. Let's not waste a lot of time with this. Luciano Spalletti.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Spalletti, hands down, manager of the season. We said it. If he wins the title, he's gonna get it. 100% deserve it. There were some good performances by other managers in the league this year, for sure. Vincenzo Italiano is one of the guys that come to the forefront. But Spalletti, what he did, a guy who hadn't won yet, right? Similar to Pioli the year before, found a way to. He got the perfect team with him. Great job by the recruitment team at Napoli to kind of assemble the team after losing some fantastic players, right? The Insignes of the world, the Koulibalis, and so on and so forth. And what does he do? He gets the team on a run, start early, and the rumors early were like, well, they're going to struggle this year, not going to be that good. And they just went on a run early, score goals, and everyone's like, well, let's just wait to see what they do against the big teams. And they're like, okay, they're winning against them too, and then just continuing to march on. And the most impressive thing, I think, with Spalletti and his team is Spalletti and Napoli, but more Spalletti, have a penchant for falling by the wayside come the new year, January, February. And we didn't see that. Spalletti kept his team focused throughout the entire season. Very few lulls. And when it was abruptly they snapped out of it very quickly. His management of the team, they had good depth. It was, if you compare it to like how other European teams are, it wasn't that great, but for Serie A, it was pretty good. They turned Lobotka and Anguissa to some fantastic household names in Serie A in terms of central midfield. Gives Zielinski a little bit more freedom to do what he does. Being able to use Kvaratskhelia and Osimhen the way he did to bring them success, and then Min-Jae Kim, what success he has. All of this is as a result of Spalletti putting him in the right position, in the right place. The trainings were perfectly done. The way he talked to the media, the way he talked to his team. I mean, Spalletti just did everything right this year, and you can't blame him for leaving, right? But what he did was unmatched and clearly undisputed manager of the season for me.
Yep. And in a season where there were some really good managerial performances, when you look at it, I mean, Maurizio Sarri guiding Lazio to second, Simone Inzaghi with the Coppa Italia win, and now the Champions League finals we talked about with Inter. Raffaele Palladino with the job he did at Monza. There's some great managerial performances this season, but yes, Spalletti dominated it, and deserves the accolades here. No question about it. Let's hand out some dubious distinctions here as our annual crap on a cracker 11. So everybody likes to do a flop 11, and it's usually going to be signings that don't pan out or guys that are on the bench, and people will take the easy way out. Not Serie A sit down. You had to have played, and you had to have proven that you sucked. Okay. These guys all played. I think the fewest appearances anybody had out of this was 23 appearances, whether starting or substitutions. So, so all of these guys proved that they were terrible this season. So let's jump into it. We're going to, and in honor, we have our choices of terrible managers too. I think there was one time we were going to do the Ventura 4-2-4. We might have done that one season, but we're going to do with Sampdoria getting relegated and Marco Giampaolo having a big responsibility for that team being so bad. His formation 4-3-1-2. That's what we're going to go with. For this system. It's a lineup that has a chance to be functional. It's just these guys were so terrible that all hell is just going to break loose. Starting in goal in our crap on a cracker team, Richard, is Andrea Consigli, goalkeeper of Sassuolo. Goalkeeper for a Sassuolo defense that conceded 61 goals this season. Certainly teams conceded more, but those teams' goals conceded were a product of probably more bad defending than bad goalkeeping. Consigli had probably one of his worst seasons as a goalkeeper this year. Yes, we could say Audero. I don't think it would be fair to single out Carnesecchi in here, a young goalkeeper that didn't have much to work with in front of him from Cremonese. Montipo is still decent for Verona despite their struggles, as is Dragowski for Spezia. And Dragowski basically gets out of this for the penalty save on Lautaro.
Yeah, Vicario was another good keeper who's on a bad team.
Yep. So for me, it's Andrea Consigli was probably the worst goalkeeper in the league this season and makes our crap on a cracker 11.
Yeah, it's a perplexing season for him because he's usually he's one of my favorite goalkeepers in Serie A in general, the John Hamm lookalike, but he's usually a consistently good keeper. And this year he had some great moments, but he had a lot of like what the hell moments, like giving the ball to the other opposition for an easy goal. Easy saves that should have been easy saves weren't. He just made so many mistakes this year, and granted, the defense in front of him probably didn't help things, right? They gave up a lot of goals this year, but man, he was so inconsistent for a guy who I rate very well for a goalkeeper in the league. Did not live up to his reputation, and yeah, though he had some great saves here and there, didn't make up for all the mistakes he made this season. So I think he's a deserved starter on our crap on a cracker team.
And here's the back four that you could put turnstiles in their place, and they probably would do a better job. The right back is Kelvin Amian of Spezia. Yeah. The center back pairing is Marlon of Sassuolo and Jason Murillo of Sampdoria. Nicolo Muru at left back for Sampdoria. Man, Nicolo Muru has been on this team a lot. But maybe talk about this back four. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, I mean, this team is pretty bad. I mean, you got to. Monza had a really good year this year, but Marlon really wasn't a good reason for their.
Marlon's on Sassuolo.
Excuse me, Sassuolo. Yeah, I'm looking at another. I'm looking ahead for someone else. Yeah, these guys are all bad. Muru, like we said, he's been bad for a long time, and maybe he just needs a new situation to go to. He has a potential, but just didn't live up to it at all. Amian had flashes where you think, oh, maybe he's gonna be good, but as a whole, the four guys have just had such a trash year. And yeah, they've been on bad teams, but my goodness, the mistakes that they gave up, the fouls that they made and inopportune times, putting their teams in horrible positions defensively. Unacceptable for the amount of games that they played. It's not good the way they played from beginning to end. And you would think it would get better as the season goes on. And these guys did not.
No, painful experience to watch all four of these guys throughout the course of the season. Let's move on to the midfield three. And now these are three guys that I think the expectations are justifiably higher than what they actually lived up to. And we will go with Michael Ebischer of Bologna, Bobby Gaggs of Inter, Roberto Gagliardini. I don't think maybe he didn't make 23 appearances, and this is just an easy way for us to put him on this team. But I mean,
it's Bobby Gaggs, though. Come on,
it is Bobby Gaggs. So I think, yeah. And then Liam Henderson of Empoli. I think, Bobby Gaggs speaks for itself. But as far as Ebischer, this is a guy that came from young boys, was pretty talented there, pretty productive there between Swiss League and Europa League, and then comes to Bologna and is just underperformed. Some of it's the product of the guys around him stand out and play better, and he doesn't maybe make the impact. You can probably say the same thing about Liam Henderson, although Liam Henderson's kind of an up and down, kind of box to box with a little bit of creativity to him, though, in an Empoli midfield and an Empoli team that didn't score a lot of goals this season. So, and then Gagliardini is just a disaster waiting to happen every time he steps on the pitch. So
Gagliardini was made for this team.
What's that?
Gagliardini was made for this team.
Oh, he absolutely is. So, touch on these three.
Yeah, like I said, Bobby Gaggs, the Gags write themselves with him. He has, I guess, Interisi have always fashioned something kindly about him, and obviously Inzaghi puts him on the pitch enough times, but I really don't see it with Bobby Gaggs, and he gets enough time that he obviously should be on this team. I think the other two, Abisher and Henderson, both of them, I think we had a lot of hopes for this year. Henderson had some nice goals this year, but very inconsistent. Abisher as well. For a team project like Thiago Motta was having over there at Bologna, you thought he would have done a lot better, especially as the team started getting better at the end of the season. But his progression wasn't really there. And again, both these players, maybe next year, if they stay in the league, they'll be better, a lot better. But what we saw this year for where we thought the potential could be, it just wasn't hitting it at all this year. And yeah, it's unfortunate because, again, both players had some, we thought that they could contribute to their teams, and not only contribute, but be maybe standouts for their teams in their positions. And it just didn't happen for them for whatever reason. So, yeah, we'll see. Maybe it's a wait and see thing with them, but not good enough this year.
I'm going to lump the Trequartista and the two strikers together because the three of them had a combined 81 appearances. How many goals they scored? You know how many goals they have among them?
One.
It
was Henderson, right?
81. No. I'm talking about the guys in front of Henderson in this team.
Yeah.
The Trequartista and the two forwards, 81 appearances between starts and substitutions, 1 goal. Charles de Ketelare, unfortunately, makes our crap on a cracker team. No goals in 32 appearances. Felix Afenagian of Cremonese in 23 appearances, 0 goals. He never panned out to be what they hoped. No. Cremonese had to rely on guys like Dessers and Sajut, among others for their goals. The guy who scored out of this group, Kevin Lasagna, 1 goal in 26 appearances.
It was a nice goal. Then you picked, I think you picked him in one of the best goals of the week he scored.
And it wasn't enough to keep him off this team.
No, it wasn't.
De Ketelare, I think we've exhausted, but we can talk about him a little bit more if we want here. But Lasagna and Afenagian up front.
Yeah, Afenagian is unfortunate because when he was at Roma, we thought, oh, this guy could be the next star. He had some flashes, and we're like, oh, this guy's going to be a star. It fell out with Roma, and you're like, why did they let a star like him go? But you see what, Cremonese is a bad team, but he didn't do anything for them, right? And at times, they just said, we're not going to even play you. We're going to go other options. And he just didn't have it. And maybe it was just the adjustment of leaving Roma and not getting acclimated to his new surroundings. I don't know. But he had such a bad season compared to what we thought he could be. Lasagna, I mean, it is what it is, right? He is who we thought he was. Just doesn't have it anymore. At one point in his career, he was a guy who could score some goals, right? At least a dozen or so, but it just doesn't happen anymore. We see so many games this year where clear-cut opportunity was in front of him, and he just fluffs it, shoots it high and wide or whatever, misses completely, or fans on a shot. Lasagna just didn't make the goods this year at all, as he has been for the last several years. And De Ketelare, I mean, we exhausted it already, but I mean, at the end of the season, it was just like we saw a video thing last week or the week before where basically all the Milan players are like, hey, score a goal. Come on, you can do it. And it's a little kid who can't do it. And he's
at the moment. So sick.
It is. But, the funny thing is like his season statistic was horrid, putrid. But, I mean, there were some glimpses. There were some positive signs. At least I saw in the games where he had moments here and there. You're like, oh, this guy is silky smooth. Oh, he can make a nice quick pass and this and that. But it never came together at one time. And he had so many opportunities, clear-cut opportunities in goal, and he missed them all. Whether it's a fluffed shot or missed the goal completely, whatever it was, De Ketelare just had a horrible season. And hopefully for him, he stays next year and gets a chance to prove that this past year was an aberration. And we'll see. I mean, I like to give him another chance, but he absolutely deserves to be on this team, if not the captain.
Only the mothers of these men could love this team. That's it. and that might even be a stretch. So, oh man. So that is our crap on a cracker 11. We'll run it down again. Consigli of Sassuolo in goal. Kelvin Amian of Spezia. Marlon of Sassuolo. Murillo of Sampdoria. Muro of Sampdoria. Ebischer of Bologna. Gagliardini of Inter, Henderson of Empoli, De Ketelare of Milan, Lasagna of Verona, and Afenagian of Cremonese. The dishonorable mentions on here, we'll go through them quick. Tatarusanu got to play his way out of this thanks to the win against the first leg win against Tottenham. And a couple of games in there where there were some disasters that he had, but then there were some meaningful wins that he had in there too that just barely got him out. And Concealy played and just sucked a little bit more. Toma Basic at Lazio deserves mention in here. Really had a hard time making a dent in this team. Augustin Alvarez came with some intrigue and some interest to be a striker for Sassuolo. Could never crack the starting 11. Emmanuel Giassi of Spezia has suddenly become useless. And Fabio De Paoli, probably his worst season in a Verona shirt, at least since they've been at the top, the top flight. So those would be any other dishonorable mentions to you?
Yeah, I mean, the only other person I would mention, it's Ante Rebic. I thought he had a terrible season this year.
Sure.
He's at least a half-season player, and he wasn't even that. And then he was so bad that Pioli didn't even want to put him on the team for the last 3 games. So he's my honorable mention there.
Okay, good. So let's get to the good stuff now. We now move on to the team of the season. We're going to do it a little differently this season. Last year we had a collaboration. I think Richard couldn't make it, and we had 3 other guests, and we all did it. We all voted. The legally blind backup.
Sorry.
So, man. This year, Richard is going to pick his team of the season. I'm going to pick my team of the season. So we're going to kind of separate it. We'll see what we agree on, and we'll see where we have the debate. So, Richard, I'm going to let you go first.
Yeah, so I think we are going to have some disagreements in our team.
Sure.
But I'll go with my best 11, and then I'll give you my substitutions or my honorable mentions, I should say. First in goal, first argument we're going to have. I'm going to go with the champions. I'm going to go with Napoli. I'm going to go with Meret. Alex Meret, I thought had a fantastic year this year. I've been pushing for this guy to be the starter for the Azzurri over Donnarumma. Meret, I think, has been consistent. Maybe doesn't have the most shutouts in the year, but he's come up with big saves. He's a big reason why Napoli did what they did this year. He provided stability back there that they didn't have in past years. And it was a rotation always, either Ospina and him or whoever it was. Pepe Reina, right? There's another guy I mentioned, but Meret brought the goods. He actually was given the reins this year, and he did not fold. Many thought he would fold. I thought he would fold under that kind of pressure. He did not. He stepped up, and I thought one of the best goalkeepers of the season for sure, and deserves to be in the starting 11 for me. Moving on to right back. There's a little theme here. I'm going to say Napoli. I'm going to go with Di Lorenzo. I think Di Lorenzo had a fantastic year. Both he and Mario Rui, not that Mario Rui's on this team, but both of his players, I thought, stepped up this year. Where there's many question marks with the wing back, especially the right back. The captain kind of brought the team on his back, and when times were tough, he stepped up with either timely goals, timely defensive play, motivate, speaking to the team to get them, staying on course. Di Lorenzo was fantastic this year, I thought. I'm saying to Napoli. Look, hey, it's a theme here. Kim Min-jae, center back. He's probably everybody's back four. With Koulibaly leaving, we said what's going to happen with them. He comes in and makes it. People forget basically for Koulibaly.
Yeah.
Min-jae Kim from the beginning, from the first game, he was a dominant presence in the back for Serie A and continued to get better as the season went on, which is hard to imagine. Even in the World Cup, he did well until they ran into Brazil, but that's Brazil, right? Min-jae Kim was excellent. He's excellent offensive end, excellent defensive end. He can transition the ball to with the if he wants to run up the pitch. He does everything, and he's such a special player. Hopefully, Napoli can hold on to him for a little bit longer. His partner. This is where I had trouble trying to find someone to pair him with because I was thinking of Lazio at times. I thought about some other teams here and there. The player I thought I ended up going with is a guy who honestly is my comeback player of the year, and I'm going to go with Acerbi, former Lazio player, but now with Inter. He really kind of stepped up, especially with Skriniar debacle that happened with Inter, and people weren't sure what was going to happen there. De Vrij kind of started like a downward trend with him. Acerbi stepped up and kind of like shut down all the opposition attacks, right? Acerbi was rock solid back there for a guy who we thought we all wrote him off, basically. I know both you and I did, and he came back strong this year and was a dominant figure for Inter, a big reason why they did so well this year on many fronts. So he's my center back. And I'm going to stick with Inter. I'm going to go DiMarco and left back. People probably thought we were going to go with Teo Hernandez, but I think DiMarco was fantastic this year. Both he and Teo had 4 goals, 3 assists. DiMarco did it in far less minutes than Teo Hernandez did. DiMarco was a big game player. He was a Milan killer this year. He just did so many things well, especially when he finally got the reins full time. He really showed what he could do. And that's why, 4 goals, 3 assists in the amount of time that he had versus, Teo Hernandez, who was a starter from the beginning. I thought DiMarco, that would edge it for me. Basically goals per minute and all that stuff. Midfield for me. We might not have too much disagreement here. Going back to Napoli, Lobotka, most underrated central midfielder in the league, maybe Europe. What he did this season was ridiculous. His worst game was the loss to Milan, and that was just one game, honestly. I think Lobotka was such a instrumental piece to their puzzle, was linking up the defense to the attack, made a great partnership with Anguissa in the middle midfield there. Great tackles, great vision. Lobotka even scored some goals, right? He just did everything. Was such a fantastic player for Napoli. Best midfielder in the league for me this year. A guy I think you and I will agree with, Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. Fantastic comeback year again for him, or maybe not a comeback year, but a strong campaign this year for Lazio, especially with the whole turmoil with Luis Alberto. No really, defensive midfielder that you could talk about for Lazio. SMS stood up and really took control of this team. Ciro Immobile was out for a while. He was a leader on this team, had big goals for them, did everything you want a central midfielder to do, but did it with a little bit of flair that for a guy his size, there's only a few guys his size who can do that stuff. Zlatan obviously comes to mind, a younger Zlatan, but SMS truly was one of the better midfielders of the league. And then maybe the controversy here between you and I'm going to go Adrien Rabiot of Juventus. I think he caught on fire just before the World Cup, certainly through the World Cup, and kept it going through the rest of the season. Of a team that had a lot of inconsistencies, terrible play, off-field issues. Rabiot seemed to be the one consistent player there where he either score goals, do well on the defensive end. He just seemed to play to the limelight, which was the World Cup, and kind of stayed on that high for the rest of the season. This is kind of the Rabiot we all thought we were going to get when he came from PSG, right? PSG, there's all this tout about this player that, look at this guy. Even when he was at Bordeaux, like, this guy is a special player. And we didn't see it at Juventus initially, but this year I think he kind of earned his weight, right? And then my top 3, my front 3 are probably everybody's front 3, or maybe is it? Maybe it's not. Front 3, Osimhen, leading goal scorer, and I got Kvaratskhelia and Leao up there. Leao coming off of his MVP season and improved upon it. Kvaratskhelia, guy came out of nowhere, basically, aside of you and I, right? Came out of nowhere and dominated the league. And then Osimhen obviously doing what he did. These 3 guys, maybe not functionally they won't work, but Leao and Kvaratskhelia can both play on the right-hand side. They can play anywhere on the pitch. That's how good they are. And Osimhen too, right? So I think these 3 guys are by far the best 3 attackers in the league this year. And then my honorable mentions. Let me put my picture here so you can see my team here. I'm hoping that's the one. We'll see. We'll find out. Is it? That is not it. Wrong one. Give me. I'm rookie. I'm working on here, Frank. I'm working on here. There we go. That's my team. But honorable mentions. I'm gonna go Paulo Dybala, Lautaro Martinez. Fantastic year, hit 20 goals this year. Ademola Lookman had a great first half of the season, kind of fell off the plate after that, but he had a great first half. Boulaye Dia for Salernitana, 16 goals this year, unreal. Enzola for Spezia, another guy who had a fantastic year, a lot of goals. Teo Hernandez, obviously, as a left back. Provedel and Magnon, 2 goalkeepers. I thought they were fantastic this year, but Meret, for me, beat them out. So, yeah, that's my best 11, I guess. And yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I like your team. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of issues. I mean, it's all it's subjective. It's all certainly subjective. Kyle says Zielinski's got to be in it for him. Creating the most chances in the league. That's fine. Apex is picking I think Apex is kind of picking. He wants to make sure. I think the best 4 attackers in this league.
Yeah.
I'm trying to jam them in there. When we do these teams, we want to make sure that we're functional. When we put it up, our vision is we put this on the pitch and it works. It's functional.
And the formation of the winning team of the year.
Yep, and it's always the formation of the champion. So that's kind of what we restricted to. So that's why it's hard to, throw two strikers, into this because it was a 4-3-3 with one striker. So yeah, we are going to disagree. Your goalkeeper of the season was Alex Meret. Mine is Ivan Provedel of Lazio. He played all 38 games in Serie A, and he led the league in clean sheets with 21. That was 5 more than your boy Meret. That's, but I won't fight you on Meret either. But it's crazy how Provedel gets here. He gets here because Lazio needs to figure out that the guy that they really wanted to get to be their goalkeeper, Maximiano, makes a complete ass of himself on the first match day. And Provedel has to go in and save it for Lazio and put together 21 clean sheets, and they go with him from here on out. And with Maximiano probably looking for a job. So yeah, Reno, we're from the USA. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Richard's from the DC area. So Ivan Provedel gets in as my goalkeeper and my goalkeeper of the season. My right back, I'm going to go in a different direction. You went with Giovanni Di Lorenzo, and I have absolutely no problem with that. He's on my substitutes bench, but I can't ignore the season that Stefan Pasch had for Bologna. And I think there's got to be some kind of nod to the job that Thiago Motta did with this team, getting the team to play to the level that it's capable of, where, may he rest in peace, Sinisa Mihailovic really struggled with. And Stefan Pasch stepped forward and scored goals. He created goals. I think we saw you saw signs of this watching him play in Bundesliga for Hoffenheim. When Bundesliga was the only game in town during the pandemic, he was a guy that kind of caught my attention watching some of those games. And now he's come to Serie A, and it's nice to see him in a team with Bologna contributing and giving Bologna one of their better seasons that they've had in a few years. And I think as in terms of general overall performances throughout the course of the season, if people want to say Di Lorenzo, got no problem with it. If they want to say Dumfries, actually, I've got no problem with it. But I really have banged the drum for Stefan Pasch here, especially in the second half of the season, and he finds a place in my team of the season. So I go with Nico Casale as my first center back. I mean, gosh, the first half of the season, it seemed like every time Saudi started him, Lazio came out of there with a clean sheet. But also we could find that he was dangerous on corners on the other side too, and scored himself a couple goals. So good defender, good future, a guy I'm excited to see, eventually progress to the national team. We had this argument, as did many, that Casale and Romagnoli probably should have been the center back pairing for Italy 100%. In the first 2 European qualifiers. But Mancini continues to go with his tried and trusted. So Kim Min-jae goes without saying he should be in everybody's Serie A team of the season. You're crazy if he's not in there. You said it all about him. There's really nothing more that I'm going to contribute. And I'm with you at the left back position with Fede DeMarco. I think he was the better left back this season. And I just think that Teo Hernandez had a spell there for about 2 or 3 months that it wasn't Teo-esque. And I think that might have been World Cup hangover. But eventually he got it back together, got a second win, scored that wonderful goal against Lazio, and then started to contribute late on in the season here for the Rossoneri. But I think, too little too late. I think that what DiMarco did was a little more meaningful to Inter than what Teo did for Milan. So Lobotka's my regista, if you will, holding midfielder. I think clearly his best season in a Napoli shirt. The composure he played with, kind of sitting behind the guy that kind of supports the play, lets the guys work in front of him so that, to create, and then things spill back to him and he finds the pass to get things started again. Does a lot of ball winning. Really like what he's done. I'm with you on Milinkovic-Savic. This is a Lazio that got to second without being as Ciro dependent as they had been in previous seasons. And Milinkovic-Savic, a big part of that, I believe 9 goals, 8 assists. Box to box midfielder, but also a threat in terms of scoring and creating too. certainly had one of his best seasons, in a Lazio shirt, and he's had some good ones. You like Rabiot. I don't hate Rabiot, but I am going to give the nod to Tun Koopmeiners of Atalanta. Really like how he progressed as the season went on. And really like how he kind of became the creative cog in Atalanta as the season progressed, and helped to get them into that Europa League place, especially when Malinowski went off to Marseille, and that somebody was going to have to pick up the ball, in terms of those responsibilities for Ledea. And I thought that Koopmeiners has a ton of talent. He's technically very strong. A guy that I'm willing to get on the bandwagon. I've seen a few people tout him on Twitter, and I have, I fully support the hype. And to a point where I thought that he was very good in the midfield and a guy that can pull the strings in the midfield for us in this setup. So, and my front three is your front three: Leao, Kvaratskhelia, and Osimhen. I mean, I know you. Unfortunately, with this forced to pick it with this formation, you got to leave Lautaro out. You could put him on the right hand side, but I think in general, I'd have Fata on the left, and I would have Leo on the right. If we're going to do it, but nonetheless, I think you've got the point there. But statistically, Leo had a better season this year. Interestingly enough, I was he was almost my last man in, and was kind of half serious about Mattias Akanji being put in that spot with the job that he did in the role that he played for Lazio this season, maybe picking up some of the slack when Immobile wasn't scoring goals for Lazio, and being another crucial part of why Lazio finished second. I'll just default to the guy that scored a few more goals in Leao, in that particular situation. And then I did an 11-man bench: Mattias Akanji, Francesco Acerbi, who you mentioned, Lautaro Martinez. I thought Hakan Çalhanoğlu had an excellent season. I would have no problem making Alex Merritt my backup goalkeeper. Paulo Dybala, great first season with Roma. Gio Di Lorenzo is a backup right back. Armando Izzo, Adamo Lukman, Adrian Rabiot, and then Lorenzo Pellegrini would round that out for me as my deep 11-man bench. I don't know if you can build a second team out of that or not, but that's the direction that I am going. So
cool. So with
a few minor differences.
Yeah, not bad. I think you can't go wrong either way, and I'm sure people will hate no matter what you say because their player wasn't in there. But again, there's so many good players this season. I think the front three are arguably the best this year, and Kim Min-jae I think has been everybody's best 11. I think we both think that Lobotka probably should be in everybody's best 11, but not many people are picking him, surprisingly. But with that said, who's your MVP of the year?
Gosh, I have been going back and forth on this one because I think that you can make the argument for either player. They're both on Napoli, and I think you know where we're going here. So,
Militano
and Elmas.
Yeah.
So, no. I am gonna just ever so slightly give it to Kvicha Kvaratskhelia. Okay. Ever so slightly. You know what? Screw it. It's our podcast. It's a tie. I think that Kvicha Kvaratskhelia and Victor Osimhen share it.
Okay.
Because I don't think you can go with one without the other over the course of the season. Kvaratskhelia, double-digit goals and assists. Osimhen, Capocannoniere and Yeti winner, both very, very impressive in their contributions to Napoli's dominance this season. And I think it's really hard to just have one stand out over the others. So for me, it's a co-MVP. Kvaratskhelia and Osimhen share player of the season for me.
I'm trying to look up something, but my phone doesn't want to work right now. But it's interesting, you can't argue with that, right? And obviously, Kvaratskhelia came in this year with no expectation for most people, and he came up and he just blew the field away. Really, I was trying to pull up some statistics for somebody who I'd argue would be above Kvaratskhelia in the MVP race. and I'm gonna say, and it's hard, and maybe not. Now that I'm thinking about it, but if you look at it statistically, last year Rafael won the MVP. How does he follow up this year? We all say like it's hard to you have a really great season in the league. You don't know if it's gonna be class or just Andrea Ballotti, one and done, right?
Mhm.
Rafael follows it up with a better season statistically. And so I can see the argument if you say Leao's MVP again because of the numbers he put up. I'm not going to necessarily say that. I'm just saying it's an argument you can have. I think what Kvaratskhelia did was a huge reason why Napoli won the championship this year. And the combination, like you said, of him and Osimhen together, you probably can't go wrong with either guy. But for me, like Apex, I think it's Osimhen as the MVP, and I think it's not even close, honestly. I think
Okay.
Kvaratskhelia is a second for sure, but I think Osimhen, the goals he brought in, it wasn't just like he was on breakaways and scored goals. No, he did everything. He scored from the penalty, scored headers, he scored beautifully technical goals, he scored wonderful volleys. I mean, he did everything. He's a strong hold-up player. He's underrated as a strong hold-up player for a striker. You would think just by looking at him, you're like, oh, he can't hold the ball up, but he certainly can. He's strong as hell. He had every damn defender in Europe scared of him.
Yeah.
As somebody put in the chat, that one of the images what they have is Osimhen running at the defenses, and yeah, that's what he did. He scared the hell out of everybody. And you got that mask on to make it even worse, right? So I think Osimhen. I think if Simeone was leading the line and Kvaratskhelia did his thing, I don't think Napoli would have been as good as they would have been. I think Osimhen is a huge reason why Napoli won the Scudetto this year. And for me, is my MVP. I think I saw enough in games where Osimhen didn't play to say that he impacted the team the most, not that Kvaratskhelia didn't. And it's no knock on anybody picks Kvaratskhelia. But I think Osimhen just, for me, was the best player in the league this year and fully deserving to win that.
You can make the case that Milan had the blueprint for stopping Kvaratskhelia.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he kind of got found out, to Apex's point in the chat.
Yeah, that's true.
That he got found out a little bit towards the end of the season. So we'll see how he bounces back. But what he did up until that point was just a torrid run.
Yeah, nobody could stop Osimhen, but a couple people found out a way to stop Osimhen. Kvaratskhelia, Calabria, and a couple others, right?
You could make the argument that Osimhen accelerated because people started keying more in on Kvaratskhelia, and Osimhen had more space as a result.
Yeah, 100%.
So I'm just going to have them share it. I can't. I don't.
It's our show. We do what we want.
Exactly, and you don't like it, get your own show. So I just have a hard time one without the other. It's kind of like the old Utah Jazz of the 1990s. You can't have Malone without Stockton. You know,
100%.
It almost feels that way, even though there's many other contributors on Napoli.
Yeah.
I'm a believer that both of these guys had very significant impacts in the run that Napoli went on this season. So it's hard for me to pick one over the other. So I'll just say they share it.
Can I say I want to give a shout out to and no, not Leao, but I think Lautaro Martinez had an excellent season this year.
Yes, no doubt.
He carried his team in big games this year. In all the big games, he seemed to show up, and especially after the World Cup, where he is a streaky player. When he's on, he is one of the best big game players in the world. And when he's off, he's obviously off. But he is so good for Inter this year. I mean, and Champions League when they needed him the most, he showed up. Right, scored against Milan in the semifinals. He did everything right for the team. He is a big reason why Lukaku kind of had a reemergence, right? It's because of the partnership with him. Lautaro is just such a wonderful player this year, and I'm glad to see him being a lot more consistent because you see what he can do, 20 goals, 21 goals with the consistency that he had. And yeah, I think we both forgot about Belotti and the crap in the cracker. Huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, if you but I don't think he has many appearances as these other guys.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
So I'd have to go back and look at it, but still 0 goals for even if he made 20 appearances. That's pathetic.
De Ketelare-esque.
Yep, very much so. All right. Well, I think that pretty much kills it for our entire review. The review Della Madonnina. I think we are we're good to go there. So before we get into who won Calcio Twitter for the last time this season, Richard, we will have a chat about the UEFA Conference League final taking place tomorrow. Where is this final being played again?
Budapest?
No,
No?
in Prague, actually.
Prague, that's right.
At the Aiden Arena. Fiorentina, West Ham United. If wagering is your kind of thing, Fiorentina is a plus 175 to win. West Ham's a plus 180 to win. Interestingly enough, the over 2.5 is at plus 115. Both teams to score, yes, is at minus 120. I think both teams are going to score in this game. I can't see the scenario where they don't. I think they've got capable attacks, but I think they've also got poor defenses. I think this is a fascinating game. I think this is going to be a fun watch. I don't think it's going to be the rock fight that Sevilla and Roma was. I think that this will open up a little bit more and there'll be some more chances. How Fiorentina cope with Icone, or how West Ham cope with Icone in particular. I think Icone is an interesting player in this game, Richard, because I think he'll start on the right-hand side. SofaScore's got him starting on the left, and I don't think that's right. I think Nico will start on the left. I think that there's a mismatch there with Aaron Cresswell, if Cresswell's the starter. And then, you've got the midfield Amrabat, Mandragora, who do some playmaking, Giacomo Bonaventura with his energy. And then you've got Cristiano Baraghi, who will be able to operate, down the left-hand side. Dodo will stay home more with Said Benrahma probably starting on his side. And then an old friend, we remember, Lucas Paqueta of West Ham, and I think he started to be decent here down the stretch. Could arguably be Declan Rice's last game with West Ham United. Lots of interesting storylines, but let's look at it from the Fiorentina perspective, Richard. They win if blank.
Oh, I mean, it's a final. It's going to be a daunting task no matter what. I think they're going to win, and maybe this is a cheap way to get out of it, but if Vincenzo Italiano gets his tactics spot on, they're going to have to be able to soak up pressure because that pressure is going to come. It undoubtedly will. And then it's not only that being disciplined on the defensive side, but offensively, you have to take your chances. And so if this will be a hell of a time for Jovic to start scoring goals. I almost said Jokic. I'm thinking of the NBA Finals. It'll be a hell of a time for Jovic to become the player we thought he was going to be right after Frankfurt, or Cabral to step up. But I think someone like an Icone or maybe an Amrabat with his transition from defense to offense, they're going to have to catch West Ham and take their moments. You cannot win a title, as Roma saw, by not being clutch and getting your opportunities that are presented to you. You're not going to get many, likely, even though Fiorentina are a possession-based team. But you have to not let those opportunities squander, because the more those opportunities go fleeting, you give the opposition the more the confidence that they're going to get back into the game, assuming it's not 0-0 at that point or level on points. Tactically, it's going to have to be a masterclass, I think. If Vincenzo Italiano has done what he's done up to this point, Fiorentina is going to lift the trophy. And also, I just love to see an Italian team win something here. Inter has a chance this Saturday, but Fiorentina would be great to see. It'd be a hell of a story, and great to see Serie A have back-to-back Conference League winners. The first 2 years, both Italian teams. So and then they'll be in Europa League next year because of it. So they hopefully the tactics are nailed here with Vincenzo Italiano, and Fiorentina are successful.
I think Fiorentina win. I think they've had their final they've had their first cup final here against Inter, learned some things about who they are. A lot of these guys on West Ham have not been in a game like this in a cup final. And people can talk about the pressures of trying to survive relegation in the Premier League. The week in, week out league functions are different than cup games. We've learned that already. I I think Fiorentina win this game, and I'm going to say they win it 2-1. And I like the Nico Gonzalez shout here from Apex. I think he can pull some strings and make things hard. I think Ikone has a big role in this game tomorrow.
We both love him. He's been great for
Yep.
Fiorentina this year.
Yep. So I go 2-1 to Fiorentina tomorrow.
I love that scoreline, and I'm going to go Bonaventura against the winner.
All right. Little nostalgia. In the battle of ex-Milan midfielders, Bonaventura will get the upper hand over Paquetá. So, and now the big one on Saturday in Istanbul, Manchester City and Inter. Manchester City's a -222 favorite. Inter's a +550 dog. Both teams to score. Actually, interestingly enough, Noah's at -125, and the over 2.5 is at -137. All of this tells you that most are anticipating a Manchester City onslaught, and that's where the money's going. We're going to tell you why Inter are going to say not so fast here, and we've been talking about this since this final has been established. First of all, you got a couple of things that are going for Inter heading into this game. Number one, Simone Inzaghi's reputation as a cup manager throughout the course of this season, but it's something we've known about for a while now. Maybe he might not have the greatest league seasons year in and year out, but you get him in cup one-offs, and it's a different story where he has to just singularly be focused on 90 minutes against one opponent. He's proving to be a guy that you would want to go to in a game like that. That's one thing. Two, this game environment, Inter is going to be more than happy with playing in. Okay? They don't want the ball. Manchester City wants the ball. Manchester City is going to have about 80% possession on Saturday.
Yeah.
It won't surprise me. Inter will defend. They'll defend in numbers. They'll block out passing lanes. They'll press when the opportunities are there to press. But what they ultimately want to do, and SofaScore has Dzeko starting with Lautaro. I think that's bullshit. I think Lukaku's starting. At least if that's what I would do. What I can see Inter doing, they're going to leave those two strikers high. And this is a Manchester City team that will give up some goals. They're not airtight defensively. The only reason why they're going to be good defensively is because they're going to be keeping the ball for such long periods of time. Inter can counter, and Manchester City can struggle with teams with counter. And not struggle with teams that counter. Inter defending and waiting for the counter is what will ruin them. But that's what they're good at. Yeah. Okay? And I don't think we understand that. I think this game's closer than the odds makers are suggesting. And I think that I like Kyle's point. If Inter don't concede, the longer they can go without conceding, the more the advantage is to Inter. Mkhitaryan is doubtful for this game on Saturday. I see, which means Brozovic probably plays from the start. And that gives you a guy that sits in front of the back three. And what's Brozovic going to do? He's going to cover ground in the midfield, and he's going to cover passing lanes, okay? And you can be damn sure that he's watching tape and saying, from what midfield positions are they trying to feed it into Haaland? Let me make sure I'm blocking that off. Let me make sure that I'm confronting Gundogan when it's okay to confront him. Let me make sure that I'm supporting my defenders when I need to support them. And he's probably learning everything he needs to learn, because who cares about age and where you're at? It's just this is one game. This is it. The season's done after this. Yep. So that's how I'm going to lay it in. I'll give my prediction after I let you speak, after I have you speak about your thoughts on what you anticipate out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Kyle said is going to be the key. There's going to be a major onslaught in the beginning with the City trying to put the knockout, the heavyweight puncher's punch, right? And the Mike Tyson punch in our first round. Mm-hmm. If Inter can withstand that, they're going to be good. It's, the main City are loaded, no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. But I think the key player for them, obviously, the two key players, I would say, Bernardo Silva is one of them, and then obviously Mr. De Bruyne there. They're two fantastic players. Especially De Bruyne, but Brozovic is there. You got Barella. He's gonna be spicy in this game. You're gonna love it. I think Inter, as Eduardo says, it's almost a perfect match because they don't want the ball. They want to hit you on the counterattack, and City they're gonna take the ball, whether they want it or not. They're gonna take the ball. And so Pep is going to try to do something different as he always does in some of these games. Maybe he overthinks this. I don't know, but how you handle those two key cogs for City is going to be huge for them. And I think the midfield players can certainly do it. And I know you and a couple others are here saying, want to see Lukaku start this. I actually wouldn't mind to see Dzeko, because Dzeko, one, is his former team he's going against. He's been doing really well in the Champions League so far, next to Lautaro Martinez to start the game. And then when the guys get tired defensively, you get a little bit more ball in the second half. You bring a Lukaku with that pace and that power.
It's a good way to
really
put it.
open it up and really open up for Lautaro Martinez to kind of be that killer instinct. I think Lautaro scores in this game. He's been on fire the second half of the season and in the big games. It is going to be close. I don't, if it's a two-legged affair, I say City win in a landslide. You cannot hold City for two legs, I think. It's very impossible. Real Madrid showed that they, even as good as they are, they couldn't do it. But in a one-off, anything can happen. I think this is going to shock some people, I think. One, for how close it is, because many people are expecting a blowout. But I really do think Inter can snatch victory here. I really do. And I think Lautaro is going to be a figure in this game, and hell, fucking Barella is probably going to be. He's always involved in these games with goals, right? So it's going to have to be a defensive masterclass, an Italian masterclass, an Italian job for Inter to do it, and they're more than capable of doing it. They've shown it this year.
Francesco Acerbi has been excellent at man-marking strikers throughout the season. He now has his biggest project on Saturday, marking Erling Haaland.
Yeah.
Let's see if he can handle that and rise to the occasion. Marking Haaland is another level from marking Olivier Giroud, from marking Mehdi Taremi, from marking Gonzalo Ramos, players that he's had to deal with in knockout stages of the Champions League. Robert Lewandowski he saw in the group stage and didn't fare particularly well. Lewandowski got a share of goals. And then Bayern really don't have a striker. Choupo-Moting. Eduardo's point, DeMarco's comment, a dream for Inter, an obsession for City. City's trying to complete the treble.
All the pressure is on City.
It's all on City.
Haaland probably won't feel it, but everyone else is going to feel it.
Yep. Inter will come in there knowing they've got nothing to lose. No one's expecting anything out of them. I think that they can play their game. They can play with confidence. I saw the comment about Onana. If he gets an early save in this game, I think that settles him into it too.
Yeah.
You have no idea how huge that is for goalkeepers.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I can't. I just think that something odd happens. Inter loses this game. Could be
a bullshit penalty or something, right?
Well,
yellow or red.
I won't go so far to say that, but something that because every time you get to a final, the goal comes from something you might not expect. I mean, how many times have we seen it in Champions League finals? Last year when Real Madrid beat Liverpool, I could have told you straight away that Vinicius Jr. was going to score the goal because Trent Alexander-Arnold can't defend for shit. And he's going to get owned by Vinicius Jr. That would happen. But, I mean, when Bayern beat PSG, I didn't have Koeman pegged for the goal. I thought it would come from somewhere else. And, some of these other finals where goals can just tend to come from odd places. And I think that might happen here.
Dumfries?
No, yeah, I think that whether it's something goofy, it's something from the midfield, if it could be Rodri, with Inter packed in, and Rodri has scored from distance this season. But
Gondwan is good too.
Yeah, I just think Manchester City are the better overall team. I think that they're on a mission, and I think they're going to close this out. As much as I would love to see the upset and how great an advert it would be for Serie A, I can't get past what City have. I don't think this game is blowing out. I'm going to go 2-1 to City.
Okay.
Inter it'll be 2-0 and they'll be comfortable and they'll get into a lull. And then to your point, Lukaku will come in the game and Inter will score, somewhere in the mid 80s and create some drama for the rest of the game. But I think City ride it out and they get their trouble. I can't. I want to see Inter win for the league. I can't. My head can't pick that. Especially after Roma lost to Sevilla.
Yeah. Yeah, it is hard because you have a juggernaut that is Manchester City. I think it'd just be so good for Europe if they lost. Not that I dislike them at all. I think they've got wonderful players on their team. But I'm gonna go. I like the 2-1 shout. I'm gonna say 2-1. Goals from Lautaro early, and then I say Lukaku wins it.
Okay.
Little Chelsea guy gets one over on City and celebrates in his fashion that he does. So there you go.
And Eduardo's comment: he's not seen. City haven't seen a 2-striker system.
Yeah, and I've heard they struggle. Oh, maybe not in the league, I guess. Yeah. But I thought I heard that when they played 2-striker systems in EPL, they struggled a little bit. And take that with a grain of salt because they won the league. But you know what I mean. But let's see.
Who are the 2-striker systems in the Premier League? There aren't many.
Yeah, I can't think of top of my head. I'm sure there are. And I'm sure
Apex about all of them.
Bob can tell us. But
Nottingham Forest, I think, with Awonye and Brennan Johnson. That might be it. I'd have to look at it, and we should keep this moving along. So it's going to be a heck of a final. I'm saying this on Tuesday night that City win 2-1, but I've got a few days to change my mind, and if I do, I'll tell you when. So Brentford, I thought Brentford played with 3. It was Tony with Mbuemo and Wissa. Now Brighton played with 1. Two strikers and wingbacks are the antithesis for Manchester City. It is. Milan had problems with it too. You force the center backs, and especially if you play 4 in the back, you force the center backs to man mark the strikers. Mm-hmm. And if you're midfield, and it's exactly how Milan got beat with the Mkhitaryan goal. If your midfielders don't track back the midfield runners coming through, you're screwed. Tony and Mbuemo play together. Yeah, or Barella even. So that'll be interesting. But right now, I'm going to just say City, and if I change my mind, I'll tweet it I'll put it on Twitter. So, okay. But we can't wait. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be a very good game. It's not going to be the walk in the park that some of the money seems to suggest. So, last Who Won Calcio Twitter of the season. Let's get on to the world's most popular hashtag game. Did you find those tweets from May 31st, or I need to read them?
Yeah, we're gonna figure this out, and maybe we'll go along and do it best we can tonight. It's the last one, so we'll figure it out. But we'll start off with.
It's like the Who Won Calcio Twitter is like a teacher who is pretty much checked out on the last week of the school year. So
exactly. Us too. We'll start off with Under the Kosh, and it's I feel like Ibanez and Mancini spend most of their off-the-pitch time wrestling with each other. This is in the Roma-Sevilla game, and both those guys just like to fight and wrestle around, so it's very possible.
Yep, agreed. Moving on, our friend Michael Lisi at AC Milan. Michael, thank you for all the support as always. After the Europa League final, Roma won XG. Congrats, XG for expected goals.
I'm gonna just pick random ones, and we'll go with that. Let's see. We're gonna go with. Are
we not doing the World Soccer Talk one?
I can't find. Mine are all different orders. So, I'm gonna go with actually one from Nima. Actually, it's Gerry Cardinale and Maldini today.
Finita la festa! È finita! Finita la festa!
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay, let's. I'm going to work my way back down here. Let's go to AC Milan. Michael wanted to make mention of an interview with Cristiano Ronaldo, World Soccer Talk, saying that Cristiano Ronaldo says, quote, I think the Saudi league can be the 5th top league in the world.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Did they make marijuana legal in Saudi Arabia?
Apparently. Let's see. Moving on. I'm going to go with Rosaneranto. It says, Zlatan ends his career with the following after Verona fans jeer him. Is what you were talking about. Keep whistling. This is the highlight of your year, seeing me.
That is class. Okay, so we go to our friend Vuteling, who nominated Lazio Space. We can't wait to hear the Champions League anthem. And it's The Office with Steve Carell blaring it out and all of the rest of the Office characters with the Serie A logos. So...
of course, nothing's working for me, so I can't find it. So, moving on. Troll football. This man is still at Real Madrid because he turned off his mobile so as to not receive a call from Fiorentino Perez. Yeah, that's gonna be the Catalaya this summer.
Yep, excellent. Excellent. All right. Let's see. Moving on. Do you have at Milan Zach from June 4th? Anthony nominated him.
Let's see. No, I do not.
Okay.
Go with it. Just go with it.
Okay. Let's see. It's okay. So Ibrahimovic retired, Benzema to Saudi, Messi to MLS or Saudi, Ronaldo to Saudi, Ozil retired, Piqué retired, Busquets MLS, Bale retired, Rooney retired, Ribéry retired, Tevez retired, Suarez in Brazil, Higuain retired, Sergio Ramos times coming up, Thiago Silva times coming up, teenage phenom Neymar is 31.
Yeah, I saw that one. That is a good one.
Yeah.
This one was a joke from Loki Laufesen. He changes everything to Europa League and then Europa Conference League. Excuse me. He said, "Hey, Juventus, welcome to UEFA Conference League."
Nice.
He changed back to the thing, but yeah.
You're on top. You're on the top. That's why.
I'm everywhere.
You're not on latest.
None of mine are in order. Doesn't matter. None of mine are in order.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
That is very weird. Okay. Okay. Well, let's see if we can scroll up. What's the next one you got up there?
From Bob Lex, it's Milan Banter era.
Okay.
Twice.
I'll let you take over the rest of these. We'll just go off of your screen.
All right.
I had to do it twice.
Well, that comes from Jafar Support BDS. The funny one there. Let me start from the bottom here. Well, let's see what I got here. Let's see. Have we done this one yet? Yeah, we did that. We just did that one. All right, so this one comes from Troll Football. So last week, Sweden makes sex an official sport. Sunday, Zlatan retired from football. Coincidence? That comes from Troll Football.
Very nice.
All right, let's see. Moving on. Also from Troll Football, man, they were on it. Messi at PSG. Messi, my job here is done. Fans, but you didn't do anything. Here's my nomination. I think AC Milan with their lackluster sent goodbye away for Paolo Maldini. That was a jive at them. Moving on. Milan zone. It says Milan gets an offer from Chelsea for 60 million euros. This is before the Maldini news broke. Now it might be a reality, but yeah, Chelsea offered only 60 million for Magnon, which probably should be easily triple digits, I think.
Yeah, agreed.
Martina Puccio. It's a scene from Moneyball. He goes, "Hey, Jerry, I think we win the Champions League with Junior Messias. There's something there that other teams just don't see."
Seeing a lot of Moneyball pictures and memes coming now with Milan.
Yep, for good reason. This one, Brozaholic, and it's Milan and Juve burning. Their house is burning, and Inter just swinging away, having fun. Don't worry, be happy. That might be it for me, unless you had some other ones. That's all I saw.
Let me see here. If I can find any other ones.
It's all old ones there.
Yeah, that's... I think it's going to go to Troll Football.
Which one?
The Zlatan with the Zlatan retirement.
Oh yeah, that was that one right there. That's pretty good.
So that's going to be our last one of the season.
Okay, I like it. I like it. This is our makeshift edition of Who on Couch Twitter. My Twitter decided to say, you know what, I'm gonna take a break. Season's over. I'm done. And so yeah, none of mine in order. No matter what I did, I tried everything. I really did. So that's all right.
All right. I am entering that right now. Anything else you want to say to the people?
I'm gonna say, yo, all the oxen free. No, I said, no, thanks for everyone who joined us this season. For all the podcasts, all the reviews, and yeah, it's just been a hell of a long season, a great season, a wonderful season. I'm glad to see Napoli won the first time in 33 years. Seeing the top 8 really strong this year. Really, even the middle teams were pretty strong as well. 4 games left to go. Excited, right? Obviously, the Champions League, Conference League we just talked about, but don't forget the relegation playoff game between Spezia and Verona. Winner takes all. That's a great way to end. I think every season should be like that if there's a tie. I love the rule change by Serie A there. And then also Serie B playoff to get to Serie A. You have Cagliari versus Bari. I personally would. I know George is probably in here and he probably doesn't want to hear me say this, but I would love to see Bari come back to Serie A after such a long time away. Cagliari obviously are a team that we want to see back, but it's gonna be a hell of a game. 2 games. It's a 2-game finale there. So yeah, tune in for those. I think those games are June 8th and 11th. I think I could be wrong, but yeah, a lot of games still left to go to decide what happens here, and it's been a hell of a season. And so again, yeah, thank you everyone for support.
Yeah, I want to echo that. Everybody here in the chat, and a lot of them are the regulars. Thank you guys so much for all of your comments all season long, your questions, and having us be part of your podcast loop, week in and week out, and year in and year out for that matter, man. We've done this now for 7 years, and we always try to make it better, and to have the listenership that we have, to have the viewership that we have now here on the channel, it's very much appreciated. We're looking forward to season 8. We're somewhere in there, Richard. We're going to have our 300th Serie A sit down. That's just mind-boggling, to say the least. So I just want to thank everybody in the chat. Again, all of our listeners, all of our followers in the social media spaces too. Thank you guys so much. Your support means everything to us. I guess as long as you all keep listening, we're going to keep doing this. So
we don't ever stop talking. So at least somebody's listening.
Yeah, exactly. So, we want to talk a little Calcio, and I know my wife doesn't want to talk about it, so I got to have somebody to talk to about it. So, but anyway, so that is going to put a bow on this season of Serie A Sit Down. The other thing I should probably, we'll be doing Mercato editions. No, we take the summer off. We have wives,
maybe some
and
small
families.
videos or something. Yeah, maybe some small videos, but no podcasts or anything really.
Yeah, we have wives and we have families, and we try to dedicate our time to them. So, I will shout out to my wife for, permitting me to be able to do this every Tuesday night and sit down and speak to all of you. So
our MVPs, right? Our MVPs.
Reluctantly, I might add, but no, I'm appreciative to it. So those should really be our Serie A MVPs. So, but anyway, so. Thanks to all the guests that we've had throughout the course of the season, some that had to come in on emergency, some that we had scheduled. So we had some great input from them throughout the season. Matt Santangelo, Martino Puccio, so many. Diba Lexa. Who else did you have throughout? Chiesa di Totti.
Oh my God, I'm drawing blanks.
Alberto from the
from all UV cast,
from the AJC.
The Calcio guys at different points as well.
Yep, Alex Dono, Jerry Mancini.
Yeah.
And if we're leaving you out, please forgive us.
We're old, we're forgetting.
Yep, and we're excited to have Rafa Rispo.
Yeah, congratulations to him.
Yep, can't forget about definitely congratulations to him. So, Joe Fischetti, who we've had on in the past as well. Thank you guys all. And then, again, to our loyal listeners, thank you for your continued support as well. And if you want to check out Serie A Sit Down through the podcast stream, if you're just watching us here on YouTube, We do have our own channel on Apple Podcasts, on SoundCloud. You can find us on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever there's podcasts. Is Serie A Sit Down. At Serie A Sit Down on Twitter or Instagram. Check us out there. Refer us to friends of the Calcio world that are looking for maybe something new to listen to. We would appreciate it. If you are watching us here on the YouTube channel for the first time, if you like this video, please drop a like. That helps us out. Subscribe to the channel as well, and then hit that notification bell so that you are given the heads up when we are back on the air. Grazie to you too, Anthony. And want y'all to have a great summer. Let's pull for our Italian under-20s too on Thursday, actually against South Korea. And with a win there, they'll be in the final against either Uruguay or Israel at the U20 World Cup. That would be pretty nice to see. Yes. Pretty encouraging sign to see our younger Italian teams doing well. So, Richard, I guess that's it.
That's it. Season 7, all done in the books.
We'll see you all in a couple of months here for the kickoff for preview Della Madonnina for season 8. And until then, he's Richard. I'm Frank. And keep telling your paisans about us. Ciao.